Continued heavy rain has led to flooding in County Kilkenny as the rivers Nore and Barrow burst their banks, with properties in several towns, including Graiguenamanagh, Thomastown and Enniscorthy, are affected. In County Wexford, water levels have been rising steadily again in Enniscorthy. Residents there are being advised to leave their homes. A status yellow rain warning remains in place across 7 counties in the southeast, east and northeast until midnight.
County Kilkenny became the latest part of the country to feel the unstoppable effects of this week's unrelenting inclement weather. As was the case in many areas over recent days, preventative measures were no match for the sheer power of the water. In Graiguenamanagh, which lies on the River Barrow, homes and businesses on the quays were left under several feet of water.
The flood started coming in here about 7 or 8 o'clock last night. Kept on rising. Had 3 pumps trying to pump out the house. Couldn't keep up with it at all. And eventually just rose, destroyed everything. Kitchen, cookers, everything. All destroyed, everything.
Elsewhere, Thomastown was one of the worst hit parts of the county, with up to 15 homes and 5 businesses impacted. Council officials have said yesterday evening's heavy rainfall compounded an already worsening situation. Like here in Enniscorthy, floodwater coming down the catchment area of the River Nore, resulting in significant flooding. Such was the force of the floodwater, a barge tied up in Graiguenamanagh broke its moorings this morning. Local rescuers raced to bring the boat to a safe stop.
Well, with the length of the boat and the speed it was travelling, it could have been a problem if it had gone downriver and hit the ferry Mount Garrett Bridge. It could have caught broadside and could have sank at that point. It was lucky that it actually got over the weirs in St Mullins and that to come down here and is still afloat.
With further heavy rainfall expected into tonight, Dublin, Louth and the southeast of the country remain on high alert, having seen just how quickly the situation can deteriorate.
Well, we're joined now from Enniscorthy by the Chief Executive of Wexford County Council, Eddie Taff. Eddie, thank you for joining us on 6-1 this evening. How concerned are you now about the next 12 to 24 hours? As we heard, the Slaney is rising again.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're very concerned here in Enniscorthy. River levels have been rising since lunchtime today, and that's as a result of rain that fell yesterday. But we've had very heavy rain here since this afternoon, which is due to go on for a few more hours. So that rain flow will only hit the river in the small hours tomorrow morning, and that combined with the already rising river levels means we're at a very, very significant risk of additional flooding, unfortunately, in Enniscorthy tonight and into tomorrow.
Now, we've seen families devastated, businesses devastated by the flooding. What can you say to them tonight? And many of these are now going to be flooded for a second time.
Yes, it's a very unfortunate situation. We have topped up the supply of sandbags last night and this morning. We have additional sandbags available at the moment. It's a very unfortunate situation for people who have been affected, but we would just ask people to stay high, stay dry, and we would also ask people, if possible, we have a lot of congestion with vehicular traffic in Enniscorthy tonight along the quays, and we would ask people to avoid that area because they're actually impeding our services operating in the area, civil defence and our roads crews. So we'd like to get that message out tonight for people to avoid the centre of Enniscorthy.
All right, Eddie Taff of Wexford County Council, thank you for joining us. We can now go to our South East correspondent, Mark O'Driscoll, who's standing by for us in Graiguenamanagh in County Kilkenny. Mark, bring us up to date. We've seen Graiguenamanagh and other areas of County Kilkenny flooded today, with 2 rivers bursting their banks. What's the latest there this evening?
Well, Eileen, preparations are continuing here across the county of Kilkenny this evening. Lots of measures being put in place by the local council. Businesses here in the town centre have the sandbags, I should say, out. So far, the level of the river is coming up here to a point, but it is not encroaching on more businesses here that weren't affected, as I said in that report earlier. So really, the situation at the moment is finely balanced. It'll depend on the next number of hours, just how quickly that rainfall falls, and indeed if it continues right into tonight. One of those other worsening areas, as mentioned there, is Enniscorthy. People are being asked to avoid the town centre this evening. Traffic very heavy there as well, and people also being told to treat all flood water there as contaminated. Now, just to give you an idea, I suppose, of the extent of the damage that has been caused across the country, particularly in the southeast this week in the wake of Storm Chandra, well, the government is set to increase the funding available to impacted businesses without flood insurance from €20,000 to €100,000. Our colleague in politics, Fiachra O'Cionnagh, reporting this evening that the Minister for Enterprise, Peter Burke, is to bring that to Cabinet next week. So that will give you just an idea of the scale of the impact of the recent inclement conditions on businesses and homes throughout the country.
Mark in Graiguenamanagh in County Kilkenny, thank you for that update. Well, as you heard, parts of County Kilkenny have suffered severe flooding today, and with the status yellow rain warning still in place, there are fears of worse to come. Joining us now from Graiguenamanagh is Mary Holland. She's Director of Services at Kilkenny County Council. Mary, thank you so much for joining us on 6-1. I understand you have been a victim of the weather with your journey being impeded by a falling tree, so thank you all the more. 2 rivers have burst their banks in the county today. Bring us up to date on the latest situation there tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately for South Kilkenny, we have both the Nore and the Barrow catchments running towards the sea through the south of our county, and we also have the Dushk River here in Graiguenamanagh, which is a small river but it's very fierce, and the Kings River in Callan, all of which are just overburdened with the rain runoff all along the catchment area in the last couple of days.
Now, you've been out and about in the county visiting the worst affected areas. What were you saying to people that you met, and what were they saying to you? How are they coping?
Well, people are extremely upset and distressed because this is going on. We've had a yellow warning every day for the last 7 days and a very high level of rainfall right through the autumn. So I suppose in Graiguenamanagh in particular, people are used to flooding, but it is exhausting, and the real solution for Graiguenamanagh is a flood relief scheme, and they want to see that happen as soon as possible.
Now, what kind of crews and resources are in place to help people over the next 24 hours?
Okay, so our crews have been out on the ground morning, noon and night for the last number of days and nights, especially here in Graiguenamanagh, where the quay behind me is flooded. And we've been employing pumps here for the last number of days to keep water away from properties as much as possible. That's getting increasingly more difficult. So we have sandbags deployed, and we will keep monitoring the pumping, make sure it stays going right through the night. And likewise then in Thomastown and in Enniscorthy, we have to try with sandbags to mitigate the experience that people have in their houses. A lot of people have left their homes to go and stay with family members, and hopefully over the next 2 days, if we get a respite from the rain, we can start the clean-up, hopefully looking into Sunday when the river levels drop, if they drop as much as we hope they will tomorrow.
And is that your advice to people in areas that are prone to flooding tonight and tomorrow to actually leave?
Well, a lot of people would prefer to leave their households. They've been through this many times, and it is a very unforgiving situation. When you know the river is going to reach the highs that it is today, there is no measures that you can take other than when we have a flood relief scheme. But at the moment, if people are able to go and shelter elsewhere with family and friends, that's what they do, and that's probably the best option for people. But they will be returning to their properties tomorrow, and we'll be here on the ground to assist in any way that we can.
Now, you said you've spoken to families, they're absolutely exhausted. What kind of lessons can we learn from this going forward so families are not affected like this in the future?
Well, basically in Graiguenamanagh in 2016 we had a similar flood of a similar level of water within the River Barrow and the River Dushk, and that would have been listed before as a 1 in 100 year flood event. Here we are 10 years later in similar circumstances, so most definitely this is going to become more frequent, and that has to be a definite indicator of climate change. But the flood relief scheme here for Graiguenamanagh is the solution. Similarly, we need to move forward with a flood relief scheme in Thomastown and in Enniscorthy. But for the moment, we need to make sure that people know that where sandbags are, what services are available to them. The emergency response fund is available to households to try and get back on their feet as quickly as possible afterwards with the least amount of distress. And we'll be here to help people with that. But ultimately, what we have to learn is The major flood events are becoming more frequent, and we must get our flood relief schemes in place as quickly as we can.
Mary Mulholland, Director of Services at Kilkenny County Council, thank you for joining us on 6-1.